Ladies and gentlemen, hello, and welcome to this new episode of Sudan in Focus weekly news magazine, which focuses on Sudan news and events, aims to give the Sudan TV audience a broad and first-hand information about what is going on in Sudan. So let's go.
The President of the Transitional Sovereign Council, Lieutenant General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, received a written message from Angolan President João Lourenço, delivered to him by Mr. Tito Antonio, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Presidential Envoy of the Angolan President. The message relates to ways to develop and upgrade relations between the two countries, as the envoy extended an invitation from President João Lourenço to the President of the Sovereign Council to visit Angola. The chairman of the Council affirmed Sudan's keenness to consolidate and strengthen relations between the two countries in various fields, expressing his thanks for the invitation to visit Angola. Meanwhile, the Angolan president's envoy affirmed his country's support and stand with Sudan in all its issues, pointing to Sudan's place in the African continent, indicating his country's keenness to advance and develop relations with Sudan in all fields. A member of the Transitional Sovereign Council, chairman of the Joint National Committee for Humanitarian and Health Emergencies, Lieutenant General Ibrahim Jabir Ibrahim, met on Wednesday in Port Sudan. Mr. Martin Schwab, Director of Operations of International Committee of the Red Cross, in the presence of the head of the Red Cross delegation in Sudan, Mr. Pierre Dobry, Dr. Esmat Mustafa Yusuf, Undersecretary of the Federal Ministry of Health, said in a press statement that the meeting was fruitful as it touched on the necessary health and humanitarian needs and the provision of medicine, expressing his thanks for efforts made by the Red Cross, pointing to the events in the state of Jazeera greatly affected by the loss of drugs stock in the country. The armed forces continued their qualitative operations in several neighborhoods of the national capital and succeeded in defeating the terrorist militia from the old neighborhoods of Omdurman, and in Khartoum, the special working forces of the armed corps were able to carry out a qualitative operations, eliminate a group of rebels, and clean the homes of citizens in the Jabra area in southern Khartoum, which was occupied and looted after the expulsion of the population by the terrorist militia Al-Daglo. The Rapid Support Forces (RSF), a rebellious paramilitary group in Sudan, has reportedly secured a fuel supply route through South Sudan, according to a leaked UN panel of experts report on Sudan. The five-member panel's report exposes war crimes and crimes against humanity committed by the RSF and elite Arab militia in Darfur region. The document reveals that the trucks transporting fuel regularly moved from South Sudan's capital, Juba, to western Bahr al-Ghazal state's capital, Wau, then to RSF-controlled areas in South Darfur state through Raja and Gafia Kenji. Trucks carrying fuel moved from the capital, Juba, to Wau weekly, the report said. From Wau, fuel was transported in civilian cars such as Land Cruiser to Raja, then to RSF-controlled areas in South Darfur through Gafia Kenji.
بأن هنالك عنصرية تقوم فيها سلطات في الشمالية.
Mini Minawi, leader of Sudan Liberation Movement, has attributed his movement's decision to abandon neutrality in the ongoing conflict between the Sudanese army and the Rapid Support Forces (RSF) to the RSF's elite commission of grave violations that could amount to genocide. In an interview with Sudan TV on January 24, Minawi explained that the decision to remain neutral was initially agreed upon with Jibril Ibrahim, leader of the Justice and Equality Movement, and Malik Akkad, leader of the Sudan People's Liberation Movement North. However, this stance was not adopted by Al-Hadi Idris, leader of Sudan Liberation Movement Transitional Council, Al-Tahir Hajar, leader of the Sudan Liberation Forces Gathering, and Khamis Abakar, leader of Sudanese Coalition. A Sudanese humanitarian rights entity has confirmed that the persistent information about the involvement of the United Arab Emirates and the Russian Wagner Group in the ongoing war in Sudan matches the information it has already amassed. The Darfur Bar Association (DBA) and its partners said in a statement today, Friday, that they have been receiving frequent information from several sources and regions about the activities of the UAE, especially in Darfur, which has become a crossing and market for weapons and military equipment, and about the role of the UAE in the current war and the military supplies and its activities in the countries of the Western Belt of Africa and Libya. It confirmed that the information leaked about the report attributed to the Committee of Experts of the United Nations Security Council included information that was almost identical to the information of the DBA.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of the Sudan took note of the report issued on January 23, 2024, by the Strategic Initiative for Women of the Horn of Africa Network, SIHA, a regional civil society organization, on the crimes of abduction of women and girls by the rebel terrorist militia. The network reported 104 cases of abduction and forced disappearance of women and young girls since the militia launched its war on the Sudanese state and people last April. SIHA described a concerning pattern of significant increase of abduction and forced disappearance of women and girls whenever the militia entered a new area. According to SIHA's report, the victims are enslaved to cook and clean for the militia elements. They face risks of sexual violence, taking into account that some of them are as young as 13 years old. Abduction of women and girls takes place after threatening families who are sometimes accompanied by forced relocation of the families of the kidnapped women to hide the traces of the crime, the report pointed out. SIHA's report corroborates the findings by 32 UN human rights experts and special rapporteurs on issues of protecting women and children and combating sexual violence made public in a joint press statement on August 17, 2023. The UN human rights experts and rapporteurs spoke of a brutal and widespread use of rape, sexual violence, and forced labor against women by the terrorist militia. According to them, the militia is detaining hundreds of women and subjecting them to sexual slavery. It is known that the militia recruits child fighters and detains several thousands of civilians in various locations, using them as human shields or forced labor in inhumane detention conditions. These practices resemble the modus operandi of the well-known terrorist groups, such as the Lord Resistance Army, LRA, Boko Haram, and ISIS. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of the Sudan, therefore, renews its call to the international community, including the international and regional organizations, to treat the militia the same way those terrorist groups are treated. For the militia's terrorist crimes are no less serious than those perpetrated by the LRA, Boko Haram, and ISIS. The ministry, furthermore, urges human rights organizations to shed light on the atrocities committed by the terrorist militia, especially against women, children, displaced persons, and vulnerable groups. In this regard, the ministry praises the decision of the Arab Lawyers Union to form a committee to investigate the crimes of the rebel militia.
Marra Mountains, or Jebel Marra, located in Darfur, West Sudan. The mountains are central in the center of the Darfur region, on the border of the states of South Darfur and Central Darfur, with a small part of North Darfur. The highest point is Derba Caldera, Marra Mountains range a rugged volcanic chain extending 400 miles west-southwest of Al-Fashir city in the western of Sudan. Marra Mountains is regarded one of the most charming tourist attraction sites that allures tourists from all over the world to enjoy the fantastic beauty of the nature, the temperate climate, and the clean environment. Jabal Marra region possesses all tourist attraction in the important fields of agriculture and enjoyable sights seeing of springs, lakes, birds of diverse and rare kinds, beautiful scenery and wildlife of all kinds, and mountains climbing. With regard to the farming, particularly horticulture, there are numerous kinds of flowers rarely found in the world. Jabal Marra hosts a big agriculture areas, is famous for a variety of fruits that includes grapes, fig, peach, pears, orange, and considered the best area in Sudan for growing wheat, all kinds of citrus fruit, horticulture crops and vegetables, and the world's best garlic and spices. The soil can be cultivated 3 times, 3 seasons a year due to the climate diversity. Imagine that such a great stuff, including the Mediterranean, the moderate, and the semi-desert climates, while rains fall in all seasons of the year, permitting the growing of numerous kinds of trees such as citrus trees, apples, and intertwined forest trees. The heavy rains provide constant water supply for farming, making the soil suitable for growing sorghum, millet, and various kinds of fruits. There are kinds of plants in Jabal Marra region which are rarely found worldwide, and moreover, there are groups of rare and tame animals in thick forests and constant cataracts. There is also most important things that unattractive waterfalls in Marra Mountains where there are many species, wild animals, small birds. Also, there is high sunny area where a rest house is found. Then we find El Radum National Park where we can find a lot of wild animals and different kinds of birds. There is another reserve park in Wadi Hawar with its sulfur, and in the vicinity there is Kindly Lake which is full of all sorts of birds, indigenous and migrants, geese, rabbits, and deer that can run at more than 140 kilometers speed of a car. In Jabal Marra also, areas suiting photographers and adventurers of the rugged terrain. Jabal Marra region is populous, beautiful villages scattered at the top and foot of the mountain. The Green Valley is considered the most attractive area to tourists for enjoying the scenery, the moderate climate, the clean environment, and the migrant birds. In the valley, there is a lake of gravitational over which no birds or man can fly over there. The strange thing about this lake is that it contains water that is fresh, salty, cold, and hot at the same time. Until now, and despite the research and studies by many experts of geology, minerals, and earth layers, the nature and structure of Jabal Marra remain obscure. In Marra Mountains, a lot of magnificent and glamorous area that can serve a retreat and resource for honeymooners, as it for picnics of groups, students, and families. The region possesses such precious mineral resources besides natural resources as well as human farming, horticulture, and forest resources. European, Arab, and local tourists used to visit the 10,000 kilometers Jabal Marra region frequently to enjoy its Mediterranean climate and to view charming sights, springs, and water flowing from the top of the mountains. Marra Mountains also is a beautiful sunny area west of the Jabal, which was visited by General Ibrahim Aboud as the first Sudanese president to visit the area after the independence. In the 1960s, the area was visited by a troupe of tycoons, musicians, and singers, led by the first singer of Africa, the late Muhammad Wardi, to organize parties in Darfur, inspired by the beauty of the nature. There is poets made poems that are still enjoyed by such renowned Sudanese singer Abu Arak al-Bakhit and Khalil Ismail.
Now, it's been more than 8 months since the lives of millions of Sudanese people were plunged into uncertainty as a result of war. Fighting in the country has caused one of the world's largest displacements of people and shows no sign of ending. More than 6.5 million people have left their homes. Aid agencies have struggled to access the areas where most of the fighting has occurred. The BBC's Anne Soy has been speaking to one family. They've been trapped for months in the crossfire in the capital, Khartoum.
The fall of an African giant. Once one of the continent's most prosperous nations, Sudan is now a war zone. It started with a political fallout between two generals, one heading the national army and another its former sidekick, the now powerful paramilitary force, RSF. Millions of civilians have been caught in the middle of what critics have called a senseless war. It's now one of the world's biggest displacement crises.
And I'm in Kenya.
But many are trapped.
Hi, what's your name?
Like Rasha Amin and her family.
He's so shy.
Are you taking pictures of the
Her husband and children are British citizens. When foreign nationals were pulled out, they were eligible for evacuation. But she wasn't. Even though the rules were relaxed later, the family remained stuck in the war zone.
You can see my baby's bed over there.
Her house in Khartoum, the capital, was hit by a missile strike. Shrapnel flew across her bedroom where her baby was sleeping. All the windows and some doors were blown off. Luckily, no one was hurt.
We're still scared because we have to put our mattresses on the floor, away from the windows. We hear their cars around us. We hear their machine guns around us. So we have to stay as safe as possible, away from the windows, maybe in the corner of the house because the corners are more safe than other parts of the house.
The capital and Darfur in Western Sudan have seen some of the fiercest fighting. The region, which is just emerging from what was described as genocide, has slipped back to anarchy. Hundreds have been killed, their homes burned, and there are reports of widespread rape. Western nations have described what's happening there as ethnic cleansing.
We will do everything we can, along with our allies and like-minded people, to bring those who perpetrate any form of human rights abuse and breaches of international humanitarian law to account.
Ceasefires have failed to hold, and with no end in sight to the fighting, aid agencies have struggled to reach the people in need.
We've only been able to reach Khartoum with a convoy of trucks with food assistance once in the last 3-4 months.
And the conflict is spreading. Earlier this month, it reached one of the last remaining sanctuaries, Wad Madani, where many of the displaced had sought refuge. So, yet again, they were forced to flee. But where to? the options are narrowing. Ansoy, BBC News.
This is what the streets of Omdurman suburb of Wad Nubawi now look like. The aftermath of battles between the Sudanese army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, or RSF. Homes and shops, all riddled with bullet and artillery holes, all destroyed since the RSF entered the district nearly 5 months ago. Until recently, Wad Nubawi was a battlefield between the Sudanese army and the Rapid Support Forces here in Omdurman. Nearly all of its residents have been displaced as a result. The Sudanese army now controls it and is pushing to regain more grounds from the fighters. But the district that was once vibrant now carries the scars of the conflict. And the sound of artillery and gunfire, a warning that the front line is not far from where we are. Al-Sadiq Sharfi and his family are the only civilians still remaining in this part of the district. He shows us what's become of his house, which he says was occupied by the RSF while he and his family were in it. He says the group terrorized them while they were there and continued to fire artillery at his house after they've left.
It was not easy, but with time my family has adapted to the fact that we have no way to escape. We are in a very critical situation without any resources. We stayed and we tried to adapt ourselves to hearing this. And every one of my family, I'm sure, that has lost at least between 10 to 15 kilograms of his own weight. We are eating 1 food the whole day and 1 meal a day.
The army's recent gains comes after months of fighting. Omdurman is a major supply route for the RSF, even after a bridge connecting it to the northern part of the capital Khartoum was destroyed. The RSF has been firing artillery to try to stop the army, but civilians have also been killed as a result of what local committees describe as indiscriminate shelling. As the fighting continues, so does the destruction and the loss of civilian lives. Hiba Morgan, Al Jazeera, Omdurman.
Linked to cultural elements, including historical, economic, and environmental conditions, customs, and traditions, which made it change from time to time according to changes. Although Sudan is distinguished by the multiplicity and diversity of its tribes, which had a great impact on the differences in costumes among them, it is noted that there are common features between these costumes in the different regions of Sudan. Men's fashion in Sudan in ancient times did not differ from the fashions of other peoples, as the men's uniform consisted of a shirt, robe, and shawl. In addition, the man wears aprons that are tied around the waist without wearing any other uniform. The Sudanese woman wears her dress over simple clothes in colors close to the color of the dress. Despite its ancient history, it maintains its basic form without being affected by many of the changes and additions that were made to it. There are many pleasing shapes and colors for the Sudanese dress, some of which are suitable for the morning period, some for the evening period, and some for weddings and evening parties. There are dresses designated for the Sudanese bride, which are characterized by being made of the finest and most expensive fabrics and are famous for their beautiful colors. There are partial differences between one tribe and another regarding wearing the dress, explaining that the women of the Beja tribe in eastern Sudan, for example, wear 2 types of clothing, including the dress known in all regions of Sudan. The jalabia is a decorated piece of cloth that is tailored to fit and size the body. It is wide and has many shapes and colors, and varies from one country to another. The jalabia consists of 2 pieces, a short shirt with sleeves just beyond the elbow and open sides, a regular collar, and short pants, with a small pocket at the top of the left side for the jalabia. Is made of white cotton fabric, and its average length is 5 meters, but it may be shorter than that or longer to reach 10 meters. The Sudanese fashion is the national dress of Sudan and the most famous thing that distinguishes Sudanese people from their counterparts of other nationalities. Sudanese fashion expressing about the Sudanese identity and culture, especially outside Sudan.
يا الخرطوم يا العندي جمال، يا الخرطوم يا العندي جمال، جنة رضوان طول عمري ما شفت مثالك، طول عمري ما شفت مثالك في أي مكان. أنا هنا شبيت يا وطني زيك ما لقيت يا وطني، أنا هنا شبيت يا وطني زيك ما لقيت يا وطني. في وجودي أريدك وغيابي يا وطني يا بلد أحبابي، يا وطني يا بلد أحبابي في وجودي أريدك وغيابي.
بتذكر فيك عهدي صبايا، بتذكر فيك عهدي صبايا، على شاطئ النيل وحبيبي الساهر معايا، وحبيبي الساهر معايا، ده أسمر وجميل. كانت أيام يا وطني زي الأحلام يا وطني، كانت أيام يا وطني زي الأحلام يا وطني، كانت أيام يا وطني زي الأحلام يا وطني، كانت أيام يا وطني زي الأحلام يا وطني. في وجودي أريدك غياب